Yes! What is up, everybody? You know the deal. Hit like and subscribe, and let's get after it. Hi, hello, and welcome to your favorite average to good podcast. Call it what you want. I'm Jimmy Conrad alongside Charlie Chuckwagon Davies and Brian McBride. And we have a great show for everybody today because we are talking power rankings. That'll be at the end. We're going to reverse engineer this. We're going to talk about Jesse Marsch getting a big 0-0 win against France with Canada. That's my bad joke that I stole from Charlie Davies that said earlier.
Hey, don't throw me in here.
We got Mexico losing 3-2 to
Keep my name out your mouth.
Keep your name out of my mouth. Okay, I'll do that. And then, of course, we're going to do a little preview for the U.S.-Brazil game, and excited to jump into that. But first, we have to call it what you want word of the day. Are you guys ready for this? Brian McBride is up 2-1. Chuck, how are you feeling?
I love a challenge. Let's go.
Love a challenge. Brian, great to see you as always. We missed you in the recap at Big Tones. Filled your spot. How you doing?
Yeah, good. How you guys doing? You guys always have you look sharp. I mean, it's early for you. Yeah.
Always fun things to say. Always.
Charlie just got off a show. I mean, this is great. I love it.
He's good. He's warm. Me and you, McBrizzle, we got to catch up.
Yeah.
We got to catch up. Okay, so our next opponent's Brazil beat Mexico, as I mentioned a few days ago, 3-2. Thanks to a perfectly placed header in injury time from Endrick, their young superstar.
Endricky.
In one corner of the world, a header is called Luc Mong. And so I want to know where you think this is, what country, which language. Here are the clues. This men's national team currently sits 101st in FIFA's world rankings, if you believe in anything that is related to FIFA's world rankings. And the second one, a Premier League team had a 13-year shirt sponsorship deal with the top-selling beer brand from this country.
Singapore.
Thailand.
Brian McBride, baby. He got it. It's Thailand. Just unbelievable. Down 3-1. Luc Mong means header. Okay, so Thailand is 101st in the FIFA's world ranking. Can you guys name the top-selling beer brand?
Yeah, it's it used to be on Everton's jersey.
That's right. Yeah. You got it.
Yeah.
Chang beer.
That's it.
Beer.
Yeah.
That might be our fastest word of the day.
Oh, now we got it timed. I set a record.
Every damn time I get the right area. I get the exact right area. And I knew I had Thailand. I just went with Singapore. God.
You went Singapore and you missed. Swing and a miss there, Charlie. Brian McBride with a starting to widen the gap, 3-1. All right, let's get into
commanding lead.
First topic. U.S. men's national team looking to respond after their 5-1 loss to Colombia against Brazil. Brazil, pretty good. They're a pretty good team. Now, before we get into kind of the nuts and bolts and a projected starting 11 for both sides, Brian, the U.S. one win and 18 losses against Brazil all time. But you were a part of that one win back in 1998 in the Gold Cup. Preki scored to win 1-0. What do we got to do? What can we lean on from that experience? How was that actually? Let's just get into that. How was that to beat Brazil?
Yeah, listen, we had no business beating them. The only reason we were even in that game was because of Casey Keller. It was the best performance by a goalkeeper I have ever seen in my entire life. And people always bring up, Timmy Howard against Belgium in the World Cup, and that was special for sure. But Casey, I think he saved like at least 6 saves inside the 6-yard box with Romario and Bebeto were their forwards. So this was an accomplishment that was better than anything I've ever seen. And then all the other shots that he saved inside the penalty area, from outside the penalty area. Yeah, so he gave us this opportunity, and Preki got the ball about 35 yards out, turns, and he does, what he does. Preki does the cut. He does the cut.
The famous cut.
He chops, and he chops, and he gets his left foot and hits his banger, and we win the game. I mean, it shouldn't happen. And going back to Casey, Romario, like it in the 65th minute, after Casey had just saved another point-blank shot from Romario went to Casey, and he just shook his hand. It was like the most amazing thing that I've seen. So we may need that, but hopefully it's not so one-sided.
All right, so what I'm picking up on what you're putting down is that Matt Turner needs to stand on his head for us to have a chance in this game. Okay, preview's over, everybody. Thank you for listening to Call It What You Want.
Well, it's not necessarily Matt Turner either, because for me, if you're talking about changes going into this Brazil game, Matt Turner not playing at his club and had a very, very poor performance, not just letting in 5 goals, but the distribution, his first touch, all of that put into one, you don't deserve to get another chance to start in the next game. Versus a player who has played, who made a loan to play and has come up big in those moments when the U.S. has called upon him. I think he's earned the right to start in between the goal. And again, it's Brazil. They're expected to smash us. So the expectation is low for Horvath. But if he shines, that further points you in the direction of, okay, Horvath is a guy who's playing every week. He's confident. He's in a rhythm, which is why he now deserves to be starting in goal.
Okay, so I'm kind of curious about that statement. Ethan Horvath's birthday was yesterday. Happy birthday to him, and we'll see if he gets a birthday present by starting against Brazil. If that's a precedent you want to set, in terms of if you don't perform well, then you're going to sit. It's always a
precedent. If you're not playing with your club and you're not exceptional,
dude. We make exceptions for players all the time.
We make exceptions for certain players. If you're at Chelsea, if you're at Real Madrid or Barcelona and you're not playing, okay. But then you put on your US shirt and you perform, then you stay on the pitch. You're going to get your opportunity. If you sit on the bench at an MLS club or Nottingham Forest fighting relegation, you put on the US shirt and you don't perform, guess what? You don't get the opportunity to perform again. We've always said that. Gio Reyna, who's not playing at Nottingham Forest, if you play and you do well and you're exceptional, you're still going to get the opportunity to play every week or every U.S. match. But as soon as that form drops for the U.S., considering you're not playing your club football, guess what? You're not going to see the field. I've said that from the very beginning.
I wasn't trying to question that. I'm just saying that.
I'm just saying.
Sure. We triggered him. We got him, Charlie.
Everybody, welcome to the Trigger Show.
We're like 5-6 minutes in. We're already triggered.
Yeah.
I absolutely love that.
Hey, you got
triggered. It's an easy change. It really is an easy change. So if you look at the situation, and Charlie's exactly right. He hasn't been playing for his club, and when a goalkeeper hasn't been playing for his club, you sort of give a little leeway. And the issue is when you do come in with the national team, you have to be sharp and you have to perform. And Matt Turner hasn't been of late. It's not just the last game. He's had a few little hiccups, especially with his distribution. It's not creating the continuity that you want from the goalkeeper position. Ethan Horvath is a great shot stopper. He's quiet, right? That's not a problem because you have other leadership on the field. You have players that have played together for a longer period of time. And I mean, when he's been called upon for the U.S., he's played really well. So now it's probably the right time to give him an opportunity. Now, will Greg make that change the last game before you go into Copa America?
He has to.
That is going to be the big question. I agree with you, Charlie. It should, because then you go in with a player that is playing well.
And it sets a bad precedent. If you're saying, hey, we're going to stick with Turner, because Horvath is like, hey, I moved so I could play, so I could be in position to take that number 1 shirt. If Matt Turner doesn't continue to perform for the U.S. because he's not playing in the club, and in that game against Colombia, there wasn't one moment that you thought, oh, he's sharp or he's in it or he deserves to be the starter given he's not playing with his club. Because I felt like in every instance, whether it was his fault or not his fault, you still felt like, things don't feel settled at all in the back from the keeper position.
He made one save that was in the second half that he parried to his left that I thought, all right, that's kind of prime Matt Turner. But yeah, to your point, that's one moment of 90 minutes that could have been a lot better. So do you extend that to other positions then, given that same rhetoric? Because there were other players that aren't playing with their club team that didn't necessarily perform well for the U.S. And who are they?
You know what?
We want names. We want names, Chuck.
I always give you names. Let's
Yeah.
let's not
Here we
forget. I'm
go.
not the one who shies away and does the little
Who's that? Who's
Again,
that?
so
Who
we're
are you
gonna start.
referencing?
Let's start at right back then, huh? Shall we?
We shall.
So, Joe Scally, defensively, not bad. You wouldn't say, oh, that was horrible defensively, but we're talking about a player who's replacing Serginho Dest, and I keep going on and on about this because we're talking about balance of the team, and you know Anthony Robinson can go up, but he also comes down, but you need options on both sides. You can't just be
right.
Oh, we only go down the left, which is exactly what we did in the first half. All our attacks were down the left-hand side. It was Anthony and Christian Pulisic, and Colombia said, oh, this is easy as hell. Thank you. We know what you're doing every single time. I think the right back spot, you need someone who's comfortable on the ball and can attack. And as much as you get defensively for Scally, and I go back to the Nations League final in Vegas where he played against Alphonso Davies and he did a pretty damn good job, but he wasn't asked to do anything in the attacking half. International, you need to be able to do something in the attacking half. Canada is Canada. It's not Colombia. It's not Brazil. So I would like to see Timothy Weah at right back because he gives you pace. He gives you something going forward. Joe Scally, all his passes when he has the ball, it's backwards or sideways. He gives you nothing forward. So at least you have that going forward. You have some fear factor. And I like the fact that Weah is fast. He's physical. So even if he does get beat, he can recover. He's played there already for a full season. He has experience there, not internationally, but at least at the club level in France. So for me, that's the one switch I'd like to see. And no offense.
Don't go anywhere else.
Well,
just stay there right back.
I know, Brian, you're big on Shaq, but I think I'd rather see Weah there.
Okay, before we move on to another position, though, I want to talk about the formation because there was some hints from Greg.
You're going to your 3-5-2?
No. It's a
Brian.
fluid back four, baby. Fluid back four. No, what I'm saying is Greg hinted at potentially, or they had been working on some formation changes. Tyler Adams said as much as well, but I didn't see any formation changes in the last game against Colombia. Are we going to even risk it against Brazil? What would you like to see at the right back position?
That would be catastrophic to run out a new system against Brazil after we absolutely
starting positions that are like 5 yards different.
Under Greg, it would be new.
Okay,
that's my point.
All right.
And it would be to absolutely get walloped 5-1 and to risk getting walloped in a new system, which then makes it impossible to go to that system permanently, right? If they start against Colombia, at least it gives you a good chance to experiment again with it versus Brazil if it was okay.
Jimmy, to answer your question, I think Timothy Weah, excuse me, would be a good fit. I think Shaq could definitely do a job there. But the biggest thing for me and what I was sort of disappointed about, just the holistic side of the game, was the intensity. We didn't have anybody rattling anyone. And Colombia did. I mean, anytime we got the ball and were able to break a line, even if it was individually, you were going past Christian, anytime he beat a player, he was hacked down right away. And those are the things, the intensity side of it has to go up, multiples to make sure that this game doesn't get out of control. So you add that in, and I think that player's got to be Tyler. Tyler has to come into this game. And Johnny Cardoso did a fine job. He was okay. But Johnny doesn't hit the penetrating pass. That's the one thing that he doesn't do. He certainly doesn't rattle players. And we need that. You need that intensity because that transfers onto the field with other players. Then they see it. Listen, you get hit and you know somebody else is going to be hitting the opponent. That keeps you focused and keeps you in the game. So for me, Tyler's got to come in. Whether or not you move Timmy to right back, I'm not sure. I've said this before. Joe Scally, great person, really nice guy, good soccer player, but he's not good enough to be at the right back position. He doesn't have the dynamic play that you need from a right back in Greg's system.
No, I agree with you on that. I agree with you that Timo Weah should start. At least we should tinker with it because overall, it would be nice to have another attacking option from deep in that particular position, and I think we lacked that against Colombia. We were so heavily focused on making sure we slowed down Luis Diaz, but then you're like, okay, Brazil, they got some guy named Vinicius Jr. Good luck with that, whoever plays the right back position. Now, I agree with you. Tyler Adams has got to come in. That's a no-brainer for me. I wonder how many minutes we're going to offer up to him, or if it's just going to be 45, it's going to be 60. Obviously, given what we saw against Colombia and the lack of bite that we had, especially in midfield where games are won or lost, we can't jeopardize him being injured throughout this tournament. So I wonder how many minutes he's going to get. Now, what would you say? Say Gio Reyna and Weston McKennie would be the same then, Chuck? So you have Tyler Adams and you have, or do you go with maybe a double six and you bring in
you're playing against Brazil, you go double six. You need all the
kind
help.
of a 6,
you
8,
need all the help. Tyler Adams and Weston McKennie. Those are the two players that sit in that double six because
okay.
Think of the wingers that Brazil have. So Rodrigo, Vinicius Jr. You could even Rafinha could play on the wing. Obviously, Rafinha could play up top, and Endrick. Endrick is probably more of a not your get on the ball and dribble you, but he's a handful. I mean, this kid's going to Real Madrid, right? So in a double pivot, you have help for both the outside backs because they're going to get stretched. Mm-hmm. Or if the center backs have to go out to help, you have two guys to fall back into position. So I think this game will actually suit us better because we will be thinking about, it's time to react from the absolute smacking from Colombia, but the setup will be beneficial for us to play in a counterattack type of mode, the transition game. I think there'll be more space. Brazil's going to throw numbers forward, and we'll be better suited to deal with them defensively when you have Tyler Adams and McKennie sitting there and Reyna just in front of them in the 10 role.
Okay, so you got Reyna in the 10.
The biggest thing for me, guys, and this was pretty glaring, in my opinion, against Colombia, is we had no threat in behind. The way Colombia pressed and how compact they were, playing through them was extremely difficult. And as I said before, if they did, they were fouled right away. You saw in the second half, it was a little bit better when it started out. The intensity was definitely better, but we've never really turned them around. And whether or not it's the pace side of it, because Timothy Weah moved to the center of the midfield, which sort of left us a little bit with an inability to get it behind. Yes, Haji Wright was on the left-hand side. But for us to open up teams like a Colombia that are pressing, we have to turn them around. And we have to get them worried about a ball being played in behind, because otherwise they can stay as compact and can press as high as they want to try and win the ball in a better position. As soon as you start asking questions of them, they have to sort of drop off. That's when things open up and you can play through. We didn't have that, and I think
we didn't even look for it in some ways.
With Brazil, it's going to be
Balogun was on the island.
They're not going to. Yeah, he was, and they're not going to press maybe as high or as intense because of the technical ability they have and the confidence they have on the ball. So it'll be interesting to see how they come out. But if they do press, and this goes on to any team, we have to be able to turn the opponent around and play in behind to open things up.
Yeah. So my concern though is that it feels like we're very systematic in our approach in terms of build-up play, and if we deviate from that, then the timing feels off with our runs, and it's almost, I don't know, I don't want to put words in anybody's mouth, but it feels like it's almost insulting to Greg as a coach to hit a strategic long ball into the box or into the corner, right, to turn teams around. Like we want to.
Everyone in the world does it. Everyone in the world does it.
I get it, but and at times it makes sense, but it makes the most sense when the timing is right, when there's clear cues where, hey, okay, this option, plan A and plan B have been taken away. Now this is the cue for Flo Balogun to make that run in behind the center back off the back shoulder, and then whatever it may be.
We saw it once early in the first half. Flo got in between the center backs. Ball was looped over. He was able to get it under control. The second touch wasn't helpful for him. Nothing came out of it, but that is what we need more of. We
signal of intent, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. All right, well, this is a great conversation. We're gonna have more of it on here on Call It What You Want, but we're going to take our first break. So don't go anywhere, please. See you in a little bit.
Come on, let's go.
Let's go.
It's a Sunday in Seattle with another round of the Cascadia rivalry on CBS and streaming live on Paramount Plus. Keep your eyes on me.
All right, welcome back to Call It What You Want. Jimmy Conrad alongside Brian McBride and Charlie Davies. So we have a great conversation ahead of this U.S. men's national team game against Brazil. We're looking for a response after our 5-1 drubbing against Colombia. Now we talked. Let's just finish out the projected lineup for the U.S. I think we're going to see a double six. I'm curious if it's McKennie.
Haji Wright left.
Okay, who's your front three? He's got Gio Reyna in.
Yep. So Gio Reyna at the 10. again. Haji Wright left. I thought he did a good job of coming into the game and trying to announce he's in, right? Christian on the right. Well, we see him in Milan, and he's starring in Milan. And up top, you run Balogun again. That would be my lineup.
Okay, now McBrizzle, before I get to you, I'll call you by your last name.
My name is McBride. That's all right.
I love that. Greg Berhalter did say this about Josh Sargent. We'll have to see if he makes it for the Brazil game, and then we'll have to make a decision if he makes it on the Copa America roster. It's not looking good for him. Injury-wise, had an injury coming into camp, so not a big surprise. This is coming out of camp, out of the coaching staff and Greg's mouth. But what do you say on? I didn't actually get your midfield thoughts. And also your front three. Who are you going with that front six for us?
Yeah, you guys touched on the double six. And when we were building out against Colombia, the Gio came back and sort of played alongside Johnny a lot of times. And that's not where we need Gio. If Gio is going to be in the game, we need him further up the field.
And connected.
That's the issue with Gio sometimes, because Gio wants to be on the ball, which is great. We want our best players, our technical players, and players that can break down and make the pass on the ball, but we want Gio to get the ball higher. I want Gio to get the ball higher. So I'll be honest with you. I think we don't need a double six, because what we want to do is make sure that we're asking them questions. And if Tyler is in that six, then Tyler's going to be able to cover and add that extra bit of help because of his work rate. I know he's not fit. I know he's going to be on minutes. But we want to make sure we're asking them questions. So if Gio is going to play, which I thought, he had a decent game on the ball, and he worked defensively, which is great to see. That midfield side of it is sort of a question mark for me, because I almost feel like it's and I love Eunice, right? And so,
we know.
Yeah. You bring Eunice in and you push Gio up to the higher on the right. So Gio on the right-hand side, right? And he can float in and out. You've got Timothy Weah, who can make up the ground back and forth. And yes, you have to be worried about Vinicius. So it's, the timing of that is a big question. I still keep Christian on the left and have him, because he was sharp. He was the one player we gave the ball. He caused problems for Colombia. They saw that, whether they fouled him or brought a second player over. Those then open up other positions, other areas of the field. So the big question mark for me is the center forward side of it. Would I love to see Josh Sargent? I would. It's tough to really analyze a player like Florian Balogun when he has so few touches. And I was listening to you guys talking from Saturday night, and Florian is the type of center forward that would like to drop in and come down. And that's not a bad thing if you're not getting service. The reason I say that is it asks two questions of the center backs. Either you let them drop in, right? Or you go, Jimmy, this, you go with them. And once you go with them, you open up space to get in behind and runs in through there. So if Florian starts, I think you got to give him freedom to drop down. Josh is more than capable of holding the ball up and connecting with, basically connecting with his teammates after holding the ball up. So it all depends, I think, on who that center forward is, how you move that three around.
Who would you like to see at the forward spot?
I'm a big Florian Balogun fan, right? But if we're not seeing enough, we have to try others. And so, I think it's.
Would you put Haji Wright up there? Would that be if Sargent is hurt, would that be Haji Wright or Pepe? It's kind of our options, right?
Yeah. If Sargent's hurt, I would go with Florian again.
And I was going to say Pepe looked like he hadn't played in a year, like exactly how he is at PSV on the bench. So again, I like the idea, because we saw Gio Reyna playing that right in the first iteration of Nations League when he was playing in the right wing spot, and he'd come inside, and you had Serginho Dest overlapping now, which would be.
I changed mine.
No, I'm sticking with because
no. He said no. No, he said no very quickly.
But no, that's right. Yeah.
Haji Wright on the pitch, and I think Haji and Balogun will give you a different dynamic, an attacking dynamic, and we're talking about Brazil. So you need a little bit more of a threat. And I think Balogun playing with Haji Wright and Christian as a front three will be more threatening and behind than Gio, who will drop deep and come inside too much. And yeah, it might ask some questions of the midfielders and the center backs, but you're not testing them in behind. You want them to think. I go back to that Brazil game in 2009 Confederations Cup final. That first 45, we scared the shit out of them. We went up 2-0 because we were stretching the hell out of them. And anytime they came forward, counterattack was on. And I was on my horse. And the next thing you know, they're like, oh, damn, they got pace. And then in the second half, we got scared because we had the 2-0 lead. We thought, okay, we don't have to be as dangerous and getting behind, come back and help. And that allowed them to have more possession and start throwing numbers forward. And we weren't as up for it in the second half as we were in the first half to counter. So I think having Haji, Balogun, and Pulisic will give us more threats up forward and give Gio Reyna more options to play through playing underneath them.
Yeah, that's interesting. I bringing back the McKennie, Musa, and Adams midfield is not a bad shout, McBrizzle. I like that one. What's interesting is that if you remember the game against Morocco before we left for Qatar, right?
Yeah.
I think we had a game against them. We won 3-0, and I know Morocco had just flown in and they weren't maybe as sharp as they could have been. And that's why we won 3-0, whatever we want to say about that particular game. But I remember us being pretty sharp in that first half. And
I love the excuses when we.
No, that's just I remember hearing all that. Like, oh,
you can say it was great. I mean, that was
I actually thought the first 45 minutes was a great performance. The first 45, and I remember there being I remember Greg putting, I think it was Christian Pulisic and Brendan Aronson as the number 10s and almost made them inverted wingers as opposed to letting them start wide. And I wonder if that would be something we could consider again. You could bring to mainly using your lineup, Brian, where we have Gio and Pulisic on either side and making them the number 10s. And then you have kind of a +3 in midfield with McKennie, Musa, and Adams. It could be any, I guess that would be the 3. And then if Weah got forward, McKennie could slide into that spot and slide wide to be the first one to slow down. Or it could be Tyler, right? And then we just have to rotate to get back into position to help with counters. There's something Musa there that I like.
Milan.
What's that?
And we've seen Musa do that with AC Milan.
Yeah, exactly. He can do it too.
You know that Anthony Robinson and Timmy will definitely get up and down the field. Anthony Robinson's like one of the fittest players you'll ever see. So I think it's
something to consider. I wonder. That tinkering would be something I'd be interested in. Anyway, let's get to the Brazil lineup. Let's break these guys down. I don't know. Maybe you've heard of some of them. There's this guy named Allison who plays for Liverpool in goal. He could have done better on Mexico's second goal, by the way. You got Wendell, a 30-year-old left back, plays for Porto. Gabriel plays for Arsenal. Marquinhos plays for PSG. Danilo plays for Juventus. Whatever. We have a whole bunch of guys playing in Europe too, right? What's the big deal? Paqueta, I don't know. Should he even be playing? He's been betting on games. Bruno Guimaraes will be starting in midfield as well. Joao Gomez plays for Wolves. Really like this player a lot. Can do it on both sides of the ball, but just covers so much ground. He's like their Tyler Adams in some ways, covers a lot of ground. Rodrigo Vinicius, and then Endrick up top, who is looking to get his first start for the Brazilian national team and scored the winner against Mexico. This is a pretty good team. It's a pretty good team.
Yeah, with Rafinha probably first off the bench.
Yeah,
as an attacker.
Yeah, they don't have an out-and-out number 9. They didn't bring Charleston. Endrick. They didn't bring Jesus. They didn't bring
Endrick is the out-and-out 9.
I get that, but he's a young.
Yeah, but he's an out-and-out 9.
Okay. I still feel like
he's too young to be a 9. Is what?
No, that's not what I'm saying.
No, he's too young.
You're good enough. It doesn't matter your age. But I don't know. He just. I guess I'm just thinking of I don't know. I guess he's kind of Jesus size, but I wonder how that team would look with like a big,
amazing.
with a bigger striker. But anyway. So this team's going to cause us problems. That's the long and the short of it, Charlie.
Yeah. So how do you beat a team that will cause you problems like that, right? And it's you go back to the games like Croatia in the World Cup. A good system, good defensive principles, and in transition and in the counter is how you get at Brazil, and set pieces. Remember when set pieces used to be our thing? We were so dangerous on all set pieces. Anytime we got a corner kick or a free kick, everyone was like, this is our moment. This is where we can beat teams. That has to come back into the fold. Where's that been? Our first ball typically is not clearing the first guy. The set pieces haven't been good. They haven't been good. So we need to get back to having different ways to beat different teams, not the same way no matter what the opponent is. Like you said earlier, Jimmy, have an option to play down the channel direct in behind, make them face their own goal. Even if you don't get to it, you're moving the lines. Then it's like, okay, let's readjust. Let's see how much pressure we can put on them. We can take our chances while they're facing their own goal. That's when you can take those risks of pressing and seeing what you can get out of it. And if they break it, then you get back into your formation, right? And make it very difficult to be broken down. It's almost so easy when you look at it. It's easier against a Brazil when you know they're going to have possession, when they have all this talent on the wings. You kind of know what to expect. And so
I don't know if that's the truth. I get what you're saying, Charlie, and I think for the most part, when you're playing a better team, you know exactly what you're going to get. With this attacking setup, with Paquetá is going to be a little higher up, right? And he'll drift in and out. Vinicius Jr. will come in the middle. Endrick will go outside, or whoever's playing. That fluidity they have up top is going to make it difficult for our center, our back four.
It also unbalances them. It also unbalances them in transition.
But that's why you have Bruno Guimaraes.
Guimaraes.
Thank you. Yeah, because he's the guy who'll cover, and he'll sit in, and he'll break up anything. And if he doesn't break it up, he'll foul. And, like I said in the very beginning of this conversation, we have to understand it's okay to foul. It's okay to lay one on a player, right? That is part of the messaging. That is part of the intensity. And we need more of that. But I get what you're saying, Charlie. It gives you a better understanding of how a team's going to come at you. But this Brazilian squad, the way they interchain and the way they attack is going to be so dynamic. We have to make sure that our structure is solid. And this is where, we've been talking about all this great stuff about getting forward and putting our wingers up. Our wing backs up. We have to be aware of the ability for this team to counter is exceptional.
All right. My question to you, Brian, would you rather 0-0, and you can say it, Jimmy, to you, 0-0 in this game and just say, screw it. We are going to be incredibly organized. We are going to defend for our lives. Not much going forward, but we're going to prove that even the likes of Brazil can't break us down? Or would you like to go out and lose 3-2 or 4-3?
Wait. Was that the Jesse Marsch tactics against France?
No, I'm just saying.
The first part? I'm just trying to understand. That was a heroic 0-0 performance by Canada.
And I'm telling you, which one would you choose?
Crepeau was amazing in that match, by the way. But which would I choose? There's something to be said about walking off the field knowing that you defended for your lives and you've been able to accomplish a goal of not allowing them to score. There is something to be said for that. And that doesn't make it right of what you want to have happen. But if I'm going into this match after a 5-1 loss, my first thought is making sure that we are sound defensively and we have the intensity that's needed. That doesn't mean we sit back and we take it upon ourselves, but understanding that we know when we need to double. We're going to have to send a player out to help whoever's at right back against Vinicius Jr. We are. And that's, you saw it in Champions League. That's how they, teams shut down Real Madrid. It was one of the main things. Of course, with Mbappe, you saw it too in PSG. So that awareness we need is going to be intense. So to answer your question fully, I would love to see us come out of this game with Brazil not scoring. I think that would be an accomplishment. But as you know who I am, I want to win. So this is part of the game. So being very conservative, but also knowing your opportunities to go forward and attack, and you attack quickly, is going to be important. Because if we play a slow game side to side, when we lose the ball, and we saw it against Colombia, the way they pressed, they won balls in better positions, and they caught us out. So we have to be aware.
Jimmy, what would you rather?
No, I agree with Brian that you want to have a response defensively. And when I think about the fouling that you guys are talking about, for me, it's game management. Can we manage the game? even when we were losing to Colombia, the game got away from us. And that's essentially what Greg was referencing at the end. He said it more in terms of respecting the game, but we just didn't manage the game very well. We get to 2-1, and then what? What are those plays that we're making at that point to try to tip the game in our favor? And we got sloppy, and we got punished for it. And that's what happens against a good team. So fouling in the right moments,
bad substitutions. Right?
That's all part of it. It's substitutions, slowing the game down, recognizing, having situational awareness individually and collectively. All that plays into it. So yes, those are the things that you have to see get cemented with this group against a good opponent against Brazil. So yes, I would probably take a 0-0 draw. And in some ways, it's similar to what Jesse Marsh in Canada had to do. And let's just talk about our former partner in crime here on Call It What You Want, Jesse Marsh, because he had a pretty good, solid. You saw some identity in what he's trying to put in the first half against the Netherlands. Second half, they turned it up a notch or two, and they won 4-0. And you could see they were in a similar boat. Lost by 4 goals. Let's just make sure we iron out the defensive side of it. And Maxime Crépeau did have to make some saves. And whoever starts in goal first is going to have to make some saves against Brazil. It's going to have to happen. But they are coming away from that game with a lot of confidence that at least they maybe established a little bit more of an identity of how they want to be on the defensive side of the ball, which, knowing Jesse like we do, he knows that at some point we have so much attacking talent. Our attacking talent is going to give us some opportunities. And Liam Miller hit one off the crossbar, if I'm not mistaken, against France. So they had their 1 or 2 chances, didn't take them, and we're a crossbar short of creating history. But
I wouldn't say that was a chance. It was from the corner of the penalty area. It was a wonderful shot for sure. But
sure.
But
I understand what you're saying. So, but ultimately, it's a segue into kind of Jesse Marsh a little bit and what Canada's doing. But I could see us adopting a similar approach to make sure that we're all buttoned up on that side. And then maybe, to your point, Chuck, about 2009 Confederations Cup, I still love the final. The first 45 minutes against Brazil of that, I thought that's probably the best I've ever seen us play. We were on it, and we scored some great goals in transition to be set up in a way where we could have success and be really tough to play against on the defensive side, but still give us room to execute going forward, whether it's with 2 or 3 players. And we have the world-class ability in those moments to do it. Now, whether Brazil gives us that time or space is something completely different, because I think their left back and right back are their most vulnerable spots. They don't have Dani Alves and Marcelo and Roberto Carlos and Cafu anymore. They got Danilo, who he seems average in comparison to those guys that I just mentioned. And then you have Wendell, who, dude, these guys are good hard workers. They're going to put the shift in, but they're not the special talent that we
somebody's trying to trigger me.
Someone
in the comments wrote. Someone in the comments wrote.
Let's go. Get triggered.
2009 was just anti-football. Oh man,
were they even born yet in 2009? And that's
you almost got me. You almost got me. I am a history merchant. I love history. Thank you.
Okay,
very much, Montana Prime.
Let's talk about predictions then. Let's get back to US. Chuck, I'll come to you first. Well, how do you think this game's going to play out? What do you think the score is going to be?
Very similar to Jesse Marsh, in the sense that, man, got bamboozled in my first game. I gotta get the defensive priorities set first, and there's no more embarrassment. So 0-0 was a win for Jesse in that game, especially against France, because at the end of the day, he can go in that locker room and go, you guys worked your butt off. You kept a clean sheet against one of the best teams in the world, if not the best team in the world. And that's going to give them confidence to go up against Argentina. Now, is that realistic that they're going to be able to do that against all the best opponents in the world? No, but it gives them the idea in their mind that it's possible with the right work ethic and some luck and brilliant goalkeeping, that it can happen. And I think the same thing with Greg. He never expected, as well as us and everyone in the fans, I don't think ever expected Colombia to beat us 5-1. That's humiliating. And that's a number that really puts you on the hot seat. And so if you lose 5-1 to Colombia in a friendly, and you lose 5-1 or 5-0 to Brazil in a friendly, guess what? Everything is super intensified. The team is walking on eggshells. So you talk about that chemistry in the locker room and the good vibes. It goes from, we're vibing. It's Copa America. I think we can do really well, surprise all the teams, to I don't know if, this is going to be the last time I'm going to be playing under my manager. I don't know if I'm going to have my spot. I'm not playing at my club, and all these things start to unearth. So to put it short, I think he's going to play super defensive, and he's not going to take many risks. and that's how I'm envisioning this game going. So I think it's going to be close. I think, Brazil wins 2-0. That's what I think. That's what I'm going with.
Okay, 0-0 at half, or you saying they're
Yeah,
coming at us and
yeah.
slapping us early?
No, I don't think so. I don't think they're going to slap us early, but there's going to be minutes restrictions. So I think Tyler Adams starts, but he comes off at half. And then he comes off at half. And then the wheels fall off,
I love that.
Did you ever think Tyler Adams would be this central and this important to the group?
Yes.
Yeah.
Like to this extent?
Well,
prior
I was inside the group, so
yeah, but prior to last Nations League?
Yeah. I mean, Tyler's influence on this group is substantial. And that's off the field too. So know that everybody is held accountable, because Tyler will hold you accountable, and there's no getting away from it. There's some interesting stories. Some I can't tell, but I'll tell you this: the intensity that he brings to not only the game but the practices is something that if you don't have, it's a big miss. And the importance of Tyler has been growing also, because while he's been out, you haven't seen that intensity. You haven't seen, other than if you pissed Weston McKennie off, you don't see the bite that we have when Tyler's on the field.
Yeah. I wish you could tell us some more of the stories, but I think it's pretty clear that even when you see the documentaries that are out there, there was Captains of the World that was on Netflix or whatever, and Tyler got to speak. I mean, you can see him dripping with leadership and presence and aura. And when you don't have that type of player on the field, it does make an impact. There is nobody out there that's driving you on to tell you to go step, to go get after him. And Brian, you and Chuck obviously playing high up the field. When you have somebody behind you that's giving you information and in the way that they say it, that okay, I'm going to do that and it's going to work because this guy's giving me that information. And I think that is super important, instead of maybe somebody who's not as assured in terms of how the team should be moving. And he has to play. And I wonder what it's going to look like. I think we struggle without him in the Copa America. So I hope that he's healthy. So wow. Lots to break down, lots to get into. Prediction though, really quick, Brian, what was your prediction for this game?
Yeah, I predicted 2-1 Colombia last time. You guys all were wrong too. You thought you were going to draw. Or,
you were wrong too.
I was wrong. I was wrong. I think this is going to be a closer game. I'll throw a 1-1 in there, just because of.
Oh, you're really hopeful, huh?
The focus that the players are going to have is going to make a difference. And I'll add in. And I know we haven't really talked about this, but you got a chance to see why we played all our qualifiers in stadiums where we knew we had our fans, because that stadium was rocking for Colombia, and that was an away match.
Well, Orlando's going to be the same for Brazil.
It's going to be the same, but Brazilian fans are different because they're not like those were all Colombians or Colombian Americans. They are passionate, and Brazil fans. Everybody's a Brazil fan. So you're going to get people who, might not know the cheers or might not feel the passion the way.
You're about to get filleted by the Brazilians right now.
Listen, I'm saying the Brazilian fans, the Brazilian Americans totally are passionate like Colombians. I'm saying there's hey, I love a certain player, so I'm a Brazil fan. And you're not necessarily.
You're saying the Vinicius Jr. fans are going to be Brazil fans in this game, and they're not.
Correct.
Diehards is what you're saying.
They're not going to be as passionate.
So it'll be 99% Brazil in the stadium is what you're saying.
I think it's going to be more 80-20 again.
Okay.
But I think that also has an impact. And don't get me wrong, it's going to be really difficult, but I think the focus and the intensity will be there, and we'll get a draw, 1-1.
All right, so my heart says we're going to have a fantastic 0-0 win against Brazil, but my head says we're going to score first, and then Brazil's going to turn it up a notch or two, and then we're going to struggle to cope with that, and then they're going to win 2-1, just kind of like they did against Mexico. And
so Brian, I'm curious. now that I'm just thinking about the possibilities. All right, so you have Matt Crocker as a new sporting director who you have not worked under.
Mm-mm.
Let's just play hypothetical. And
Yep.
U.S. get absolutely smashed going into Copa America. Obviously, these are friendlies.
Yeah.
When do you think Matt Crocker starts reaching out to other people about interest? Or do you think he already started that?
Brian, before you answer that, we actually have to take a break. So when we come back to Call It What You Want, Brian is going to answer that very good question from Charlie Davies. So don't go anywhere.
Ladies, he's shaking.
Call It What You Want is back. Charlie asked a very good question of Brian McBride. What will Matt Crocker, the sporting director, do if things don't go well and it's a dumpster fire at the Copa America for the U.S. men's national team? The floor is yours,
before we even get to Copa America. I'm saying dumpster fire before you even walk in.
That doesn't even matter.
Considering the Jamaica semifinals is already
going to fire him before the Copa America, Chuck.
No, but when do you start making those calls?
Calls
that doesn't mean you're going to
made, baby. Like,
you think so?
3-1 Colombia. That's one call. 4-1 Colombia. That's 2 more people. 5-1 Colombia. I'm texting all my friends. Hey, do you know this guy? Can I get some numbers here? How much is Jurgen Klopp going to be? You know.
So to answer your question, Charlie, in that position, you always have a list. So you always have a list of coaches that you think would work in our system and in the federation. So now the calls and the questions that are asking, it's about relationships. So if you know agents, you are always talking to agents. You find, what situation people are in way before, not like when this period happens, because you don't want to upset the head coach, because the head coach finds out you've made these calls on the idea that he's going to be replaced. That becomes a problem. But if you have the relationships with agents, they will tell you what their situation is. So you have in your back of your mind your list of coaches, and then you have also the understanding that where those coaches are based on your relationships with certain agents. The phone call comes when Copa America doesn't go right and you have a bad Copa America. And then you really have to make a decision, because unfortunately, this is part of being a head coach, and every head coach knows it. There's a time when you're gonna get let go, and the ones that are the anomalies are the ones that decide to leave because they have other opportunities, or that they want to try something new. Mm-hmm. But those are the ones that actually have probably succeeded where they've been. And so this is a fine line of making sure that you understand what's possibly out there, but also not upsetting your head coach, because once that happens, it's tough to gain that relationship back.
Okay, so to follow up on that, from my perspective, I don't know why one of the top coaches in the world, let's say Jurgen Klopp, Pep Guardiola, let's just use this guys as an example, why they would want to take our job, the U.S. men's national team job, 4 years ahead of the World Cup, right? They want to continue to grind their teeth or be part of the club scene for as long as possible. And I could see those guys being interested maybe 18 months to a year out, and then be like, okay, that would be pretty cool to be in charge of the U.S. ahead of a massive World Cup in their home country. And I think I could help. And I'm sure you're gonna have to pay me through the nose, but whatever. The U.S. will probably pay it because they want to have a big name.
Jimmy,
potentially.
That's the other big issue that people don't talk about. Because the federation is a non-for-profit, and we've gone through the process of making sure that the men and women, which is great, are paid the same. The head coaches are paid the same. You have to look at this and understand any move you make. And if you're going for one of these big guys, you're talking 8-10 million a year. And we don't have the finances. We don't have the finances for that. And maybe after the World Cup that changes. But at this point in time, your pool's limited. And it's not going to be, unless there's a situation where the head coach says, I want this. I will take a pay cut. And I will, go and put my stamp on this group. You're running into the pool is a lot smaller than what people think, just because of the ability for the federation to pay.
Wouldn't that be a missed opportunity, though?
I said this in the Nations League in Vegas, and I got flambaked for that comment. And
go ahead, Chuck.
The options are going to be limited. They're going to be limited as anyways, so to speak, of who can take this group forward. And I'll still always die on the hill of It should be at this point a European manager, because most of our guys are in Europe, and one that obviously speaks English, but one who has the credentials, who has, success behind them to make the necessary changes to go forward with this group. That's what I think at this stage. But yeah, I mean
so I understand where you're coming from the budget, Brian, where we're going to generate a lot of income from the 2026 World Cup, but we could generate even more if we hired somebody who was better than what we currently have. And we saw it. And this is my favorite part about Jesse Marsh getting hired for Canada, is that the 3 MLS owners, Canadian MLS team owners, all got involved and said, we will pay whatever the salary is to get
the boosters, the Canadian boosters.
Yeah, you're telling me you can't get, like, you have a good 2026 World Cup. It positively impacts every single level of the game in this country. So that we're talking grassroots all the way up to USL, NWSL, like everybody, MLS, everybody wins. So why would we wait until we had some money? Why wouldn't we try to go get some investment pre-World Cup to try to make sure we have the best people in place possible to have and to achieve as much success? Because that's going to have a positive ripple effect in so many different ways, as opposed to going like, I don't want to regret later going like, we should have done this. Like, no, F that. Let's get somebody now. Like, you're telling me, the pockets of some NFL owners can't come. It's going to benefit everybody. It benefits everybody. I don't know.
You make sense, Jimmy. You're making sense. The problem is it doesn't always equate when you get into a board meeting.
I understand, but I don't like it. I don't like it.
I understand that,
but I don't like it. So yeah, I'm curious. I'm curious as to how this all plays out. But I wonder what names we could attract if not to say we had a bottomless pit of money, but if we had enough to go get somebody.
I'd also ask you both. Let's say that money is not the issue, right? And I feel like a national team manager should not be persuaded in a manner that is, I'm doing this because it's Saudi Arabia, type money, or I'm gonna go take the US job. Like, I want to coach the US to win a World Cup, or to change the narrative and get them the furthest. So, you don't have to pay me all of that type of money, because I know what a job this is, what an opportunity this is. Given that, who would be the best candidates to get that to in your mind, that you don't have to pay Saudi Arabian type fees?
I think,
like, realistically.
It's an extremely difficult question to answer, because there is everybody's dream wish, right, to have a certain top manager to be a part of this. I think that's the wrong way to look at it, Charlie, because you have to be realistic in the sense that, first of all, everybody hopes that we do well in Copa America, and Greg's able to take this team to a higher level, right? That's the first and foremost, and that's why U.S. Soccer hired him or rehired him. But when we get into who would be a dream coach, easily you can say Jurgen Klopp would be perfect, because the intensity that he brings, the knowledge, the experience, the charisma, all of that. He would be a great manager. Would Jurgen Klopp take the U.S. national team job? I have a tough time thinking that he just left Liverpool for his break.
Hey,
and his time off.
Manager doesn't sound too bad.
And then
I'll make a phone call. Let me make a phone call.
Sounds good.
If let's say his demands were $10 million a year and we got him for 2 years, right, and it ended after the World Cup in 26.
Yeah.
Why couldn't we find that money? I
don't know.
Jimmy, they're like right now. There's still U.S. Soccer does
or sponsors
reach out and has people in their support group that donate a lot of money, right? So is it possible out there? Yeah, I think
that's all I wanted to hear, baby. It's possible, Chuck. Nick Frizzle says it's possible.
But then there's the politics of it, and that's where you start running into walls. And the hypothetical is great, but the reality is a completely different story that a lot of people don't know and don't understand.
Oh, wow. We got really sobering really quick. I want to go back to the hope. I want to go back to the hope. Let's go back to the hope.
He said, No, there's
yes,
bureaucracies here.
exactly.
Bureaucracies in politics and boards.
budgets
It's very
and-
complicated. It's
yeah.
budgets,
complicated.
and it doesn't work like
A lot
that.
of red tape and your pipe dreams aren't going to happen. Okay, I want my pipe dreams to happen. Last topic then for today, and obviously that's a conversation that will be continuing over the next couple months, I'm sure, if not
Hey,
longer.
what about
What?
this podcast? This podcast pumps me up.
It does.
talk-
It does.
We talk about real ish. You know what I mean? And
I do know
we
what
do
you
it.
mean.
We do it in the right way. So I'm
All right,
proud
so
I'm proud of
we
being
got
on
some
this
power
show.
rankings. We got some power rankings that we teased
Yeah.
at the very beginning of the show. CBS Sports Golazo has started a Golazo 100 counting down. 40 to
Random
21 is happening. It's dropping today. 40 through 21, world's best men's players, and then 20 through the number 1 player in the world is happening tomorrow. Pulisic is number 81 and the only American in the top 100. And the big question is he better than Luis Diaz? He finished above him. And then Alphonso Davies is at 75, the only other CONCACAF player. So some conversations to have around that, of course. And then we have a Call What You Want top 10. So our U.S. men's national team power rankings. Can we get those up now? And for those people listening, I can roll it out. So here's our Call What You Want power rankings. At number 10, Flo Balogun. Number 9, Timo Weah. Number 8, Gio Reyna. 7, Chris Richards. 6, Serginho Dest. Yunus Musa, number 5. Anthony Robinson, number 4. Weston McKennie, number 3. Tyler Adams, number 2. Christian Pulisic, number 1. So Chuck, I'll come to you first. Any you have any issues with these power rankings? This is like kind of where things stand at the moment. So your current form does come into it, but there's also what you've done for the program leading up into it, and I'm sure there's some potentials sprinkled into that too.
And this is active players, right?
Yeah, the
Active players. Otherwise,
Yeah.
you'd be number 1, McBrizzle.
Yeah.
I don't know.
No
what the
chance.
hell.
No chance.
I think Yunus Musa can't be that high if he's not even a given in the starting 11. I think potentially, and we know his ability. I'm just as a big a fan as Brian is
That means
of him, but he can't be that high if he's not a penciled in starter without blinking.
That means that Brian had him really high up his list because that's how he got up.
I didn't. I had him actually right there. That's where I had him.
Okay.
Or maybe even one below. But yeah.
All right. So I guess the big surprise for me is Gio Reyna at 8, just given that when he does play and plays well, the talent is undeniable. But I guess when you're not playing a lot either, that makes a difference. Serginho Dest, when healthy, obviously gets thrown into it. Anthony Robinson had a hell of a year with Fulham and continues to get better. Flo Balogun, number 10. Timo Weah, number 9. Richards maybe a little bit too high for people at 7. I don't know. I'm kind of curious what everybody thinks about our top 10.
Yeah.
Brian, you got any thoughts on that?
I think
I don't even remember what my top 10 was.
Florian's probably the one sort of outlier in this because he hasn't been with the national team. I think that's based on the talent and the possibility of where he can get. But I think all in all, it looks pretty good to me. Certainly the top 3 and 4, I think are definitely there. You could move maybe Serginho Dest a little higher up, switch Yunus with Serginho.
Mm-hmm.
But again, this is why we do a list and everybody puts it down. So we all have opinions.
Yeah, it's tough. It's tough. I mean, there's a lot too in terms of what factors matter to you the most. Is it current form? Is it lifetime achievement award? Is it potential? It's all kind of baked in, and it's hard to get away from current form sometimes. That's what I would say.
Yeah, I mean,
But,
Yunus Musa, right? Last Nations League semifinals and finals. It was during Ramadan, but he played poorly, right? And so he came off in the 63 minutes, and then he only played 11 minutes in the final. I don't know, what his fitness levels were at and his energy, but he didn't play well. And then with Milan this season, I think he broke in the team. He surprised everyone. He showed his quality, but he didn't put a stamp on it. And I think that comes with not being a decisive player in the attacking third. We talk about his the final pass, the goals, the assists that come with it. He's very much so a gifted player, dribbling through pressure, but it's a lot of side to side. And so
you with Yunus, you get this one issue, and I know you guys, we've talked about these type of players. He's somebody that can play in many different positions. So for having him in the squad and having him in the team is great. But for him to just continue to improve, he needs to put his stamp on that center midfield position.
Yep.
And to your point, Charlie, he needs then now to make line breaking passes and be able to distribute the ball over distance, because you give him the ball, and when he's confident, he's not going to lose the ball. He's good in tight spaces. It's just the ability to then make that pass over 30, 40 yards and have it be accurate. And again, that's the next evolution of Eunice.
Yep.
Yeah, and hopefully that happens, because that's a hell of a player if he can get all that put together. All right, the game against Brazil is happening on Wednesday in Orlando. Kickoff is 7 p.m., or probably that's when the TV starts. Kickoff's probably 5 or 6, 7 minutes later. And fun fact, we are going live with a reaction pod right after that game ends. So come here and join us. Call it what you want. Make sure you follow us on all the podcast platforms, or which one is your favorites. And hit us up on YouTube as well. Hit like and subscribe. Tell all of your friends. And it should be hopefully a lot of fun. And we're talking about a win and not necessarily another drubbing, because that would not – the triggering would be right from the get-go, especially for Chuck. All right, everybody, that's it.
Hey,
we're calling
shout out
it a
to
show.
everybody trying to trigger me in the comments. I love y'all.
We appreciate you. We'll see you after the Brazil game. Thanks for all your support. Later.